Hello everybody, Beard Reads Books here, and in today's video I'm going to be reviewing Edward the Elder, King of the Anglo-Saxons, Forgotten Son of Alfred by Michael John Key. A little while ago I did do a review videos on these two books on Alfred the Great. And obviously Edward the Elder, he's Alfred the Great's son. So kind of having read the two books on Alfred the Great got me kind of interested in reading about his son Edward the Elder. So that's why I kind of thought I'd get my hands on this book and read it. And I must admit, very good book. Very, it's an academic book, but it's written in a very easy to read way, and flows quite well. Well, flows very well, I think. And so even though it's a bit of an academic book, it's not a dry book. It's not a dry academic book. It's a kind of book that a lay person, the Joe blogs, can easily get into. And now one little comment I'm going to make is, with this book, now with the two books on Alfred the Great, don't know how well it'll show up on the video, but quite big font size. Whereas in this book, again, I don't know how well it'll show up, the font size is quite a bit smaller. So I said, when I started reading this book, initially the small font size, it did feel a bit slow going as I got used to the smaller font size, sort of having gone pretty much from these to this, so not criticism against this book, but I thought I'd just comment, it's a bit of a smaller font size, so if you don't do well with small font sizes, that might be something worth sort of bearing in mind. But yeah, it's a good book. It starts off just sort of covering sort of Alfred the Great a bit, sort of the latter years of Alfred the Great, sort of when Edward the Elder was sort of a little kid. So it just covers a bit about Alfred the Great and sort of the state that Wessex was in general, just to sort of it starts off giving a bit of a backdrop of what Wessex was like, and when Edward was growing up, and also like touching a bit on sort of what Alfred the Great was getting up to as Edward was growing up. And then the main part is obviously about Edward the Elder and all the things that he did. And the last sort of few chapters, the last chapter or so, sort of touches a bit on sort of the immediate aftermath of Edward's death, sort of a bit of his legacy, and sort of touching on what sort of like Edward's sons that sort of came to be kings and all the rest. So that's a sort of general outline of the book. And yeah, it was very interesting to read, because obviously having read the two books about Alfred the Great and all the things that he did throughout his life as sort of king of the West Saxons, and to then sort of read about Alfred the Great and Edward the Elder, to read about how he carried on the works that his father had done, and to sort of see how things progressed through his reign, and how some of the things he was doing tied back into what his father had done during his reign. It was very interesting, and I really got into reading about it. Now, for me personally, I mean, I would say that as a standalone book, it's quite good, but for me personally, I found it a lot more enjoyable because of the fact I'd read the two books on Alfred the Great beforehand. So yeah, that. So I mean, I would suggest maybe read a book or two about Alfred the Great first before reading about this book about Edward the Elder. But you don't have to. I wouldn't say it's essential to do that. Michael John Key, he's done a very good job of researching the subject matter, because one thing he does touch on with regards to Edward the Elder is there wasn't a massive amount of contemporary records like written about Edward the Elder, not quite so much as what was written about Alfred the Great. And what was written, and the contemporary records that were written about Edward the Elder, a small amount written about him, not a lot of them have survived, so there's a very limited amount of source material with which historians can work on when sort of studying Edward the Elder. And so bearing in mind Michael Key's got a sort of a limited source material to go on, he's done a very, very good job of researching Edward the Elder and putting together a very interesting and compelling book. And yeah, I found it very fascinating to read, and I would definitely recommend it. It's well done, and Michael Key, he does he's done a very good job of sort of presenting the facts, and where sort of different source materials sort of contradict each other a bit, he sort of puts the different, he explains he records the contradictions and tries to put it in a clear way, if that makes sense. And he also does his best to explain things. And yeah, so I'm probably not explaining that very well, so apologies about that. But yeah, he's done a very good job of putting forward all the facts in the best way he can. So I think poor old Edward the Elder, he's had a bit of a rum do in that he's got overshadowed by his sort of more famous father, Alfred the Great. So yeah, he is a bit of a forgotten king, gets overlooked. But I think this book goes quite a good way to hopefully rectifying that a bit and sort of bringing Edward the Elder more into the limelight. And I think he deserves to get a bit of recognition because he did do a lot of good work, Edward the Elder. And I do think it's a bit of a shame he's been overshadowed quite a bit by Alfred the Great. He doesn't deserve to be overlooked, poor old Edward the Elder. He deserves to get a bit of recognition. So guys, if you're into history, especially history on the British royal families and kings and all the rest, this is definitely a book for you to have on your bookshelf. I would definitely say, if you're going to want to read about royal the royals of England and history and all the rest, get this particular book on your bookshelf. Got to be done. Well guys, I'm going to bring this video to an end. Excuse me, bearable. Thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed. Look forward to seeing you in the next video. Now, my last few videos I've been actually pretty consistent on putting them out on a Saturday. So going forward, I am going to try and regularly put a review video out on a Saturday. So that's my plan for going forward. So all being well, if I stick to that, see you next Saturday, guys, with another book review. And in the meantime, take care. Happy reading.